Super excited to be joined today by Logan Graf, CPA, the Logan Graf. Um, he is my favorite content creator for the accounting profession, putting out amazing YouTube videos, has the best live streams out there. Love your live streams, Logan. But so excited to be joined by him today and going to talk a little bit about the accounting profession and what he's doing for young students. So thank you for being here, Logan.
Thank you, Chayton. That's very nice of you to say that. Really appreciate that because I do everything myself right now. So shoot, edit, record, publish, everything. So knowing that it's something that people enjoy means a lot because I put a lot of effort into it.
Your your content not only is so on the dot applicable, but it's always hilarious too. That's that's something I love about it.
That's the goal. If I don't make you laugh in my video, then I have failed. That's like my mission. So I need a laugh and from the video, even though I can be pretty, it can be a serious topic and a kind of relatively serious video. I will throw in humor in there because I have to. I have to make you laugh, and I failed as a creator if I don't.
Your you probably your funniest video is your Top Gun drone video.
And that's not even on YouTube because it'll get content or copyrighted instantly because I use the Top Gun music. But yeah, that's on LinkedIn and Twitter though because they don't have a problem, and it's not really monetized either. So yeah, which one? The second version?
I thought the second version was better, but that's just me.
Yeah, yeah, the second one. I'm trying to step it up, so I guess I have to step it up every year now, make it bigger and better. So eventually, I may need to find someone that can fly a jet and take me up there.
Oh, that'll be great. So, I usually dig in to people's background a little bit, but since you have so much content out there about your background and, you know, kind of your journey to accounting, maybe we can do kind of a different background. What was your background to content creating? How did you even start doing that?
Yeah, in high school, I took a media tech class, so kind of like your introduction into cameras and recording software and editing software, video, audio, all of that. And I took 2 years of it, and I loved making videos. Back then, it was 2006 and seven, so YouTube was around, but it wasn't really that big. I wasn't posting to YouTube back then, but I just enjoyed the process and creating and entertaining. I don't know. I love entertaining people. So it stems from there. Like, so when Jason Stats started to create his content, YouTube content, I was like, man, he's being really successful at this. Like it's around accounting. So like people are watching it and it's definitely entertaining and funny, and no one else is doing it. And I was like, I want to future proof myself and creating video. I think, video is kind of the future of communication because generations like millennials like me and those, Gen Z, I think they probably prefer video content over, you know, articles and stuff. We go to YouTube for everything and or TikTok. And so I was like, I think this is the future. So I'm going to just start doing it. And I didn't really have a direction. I was like, I'm going to just make tax content and talk about tax stuff. And it was good. Like people enjoyed it, but I, I would sprinkle in kind of like how I would run my firm in there. And I made like this video going over my 2021 financials as a first year CPA firm owner, and that blew up. So it was like, man, people really want to watch me kind of talk about how I run my firm, it seems like, over tax related stuff, because the tax content wasn't getting as many views. So I was like, I think I'm going to pivot towards talking more about how I run my firm, and almost like a journal almost of my firm progression. And so that's kind of what I've been doing. And I started a separate tax channel that I'm moving really slow on called Tax Time. And that's where I'm doing just YouTube shorts, like really brief information on tax. But I'm putting more effort into my main channel, talking about, the accounting industry, CPAs, future of accounting, and how I run my firm.
And your content is amazing, and it's so applicable to everything facing the profession right now. So why so much transparency? You know, we've for the longest time the accounting industry has been so, I don't know if you want to use the word competitive or, not willing to share information, but all of your information about your business you just put right out there, and you tell people what you're making and how many hours you're working.
Mm-hmm.
Why
Mm-hmm.
so much transparency?
I think just because no one else is really doing it. And like when I made the first how much money I made video, I before that I had watched like these other videos, like how much money I made as a videographer or something, and I was like, that is really cool. And it created a lot of views, and I was like, well, no one's doing that in our space from what I could tell. That was, like on YouTube, or, like no one was doing that. And so I was like, I think if I made a video doing something similar for a CPA firm, that would be pretty awesome. And it would bring transparency. And so like at first I didn't think of anything of it. My wife's like, wait, do you realize what you're doing? Like you're posting like how much money you make online. And I was like, oh, I had like a minor freak out. Like, oh, that is kind of like scary a little bit. But I was like, like whatever. I've got nothing to lose. And it worked out. And now it's like influencing people to want to start their own firm or to continue their progress in accounting. Like I have accounting students reach out to me like, Logan, I'd love to start my firm one day after working on my, working for a firm for a few years. And like, you've inspired me to want to do that. And so like, like the accounting profession needs more transparency. Like, I think it's in our DNA to not really do that kind of, share that kind of information for some reason. It's just how we're built, how accountants are built. We're kind of shy and introverted, and stay to ourselves, and we don't want to show off. Very conservative in that matter. And I'm not trying to say like I run an amazing firm, like I have the best firm ever. I'm just trying to say like I am a normal person, and I don't have these huge aspirations of making a ton of money. Here's what is possible for you, because I am not that spectacular of a person or business owner. So like I want to influence like other people to start their own firm, because they're like, man, Logan is doing his thing, and he's not like the top 10% of firm owners. He's just like a normal person. I and I see myself as doing something that he's doing, and that's great. That's what we need. And I'm not trying to like put myself on a pedestal. I'm just a normal person. I my firm isn't perfect, so like I want people to understand that through my vulnerability, and just be inspired by it, to where it's like, yes, it's definitely possible, because you see a lot of accounting influencer, or I guess you see a lot of people on LinkedIn, or talk about kind of their firms, and everything seems like amazing, like they have amazing firms. And that's really hard to, like, if you're not a firm owner, imagine yourself to having a firm like theirs. So something, I want to make firm ownership more approachable, essentially, with that vulnerability. Sorry, it's a very long answer.
No, I absolutely love that. Um, and it reminds me. So one of the first videos I ever watched of yours was your, I believe it was your 2023, it was tax year 2022, but it was in 2023. Your recap of how much you made, how many hours you spent, all of that, the breakdown. And I went to all my accounting friends and even my parents, and I was like, look at what this guy is doing. It doesn't have to be, you know, auditor at KPMG. It doesn't have to be, you know, tax professional for 10 years at some firm in the meat grinder, and then
Mm-hmm.
you can finally start your own firm. I was like, look at what Logan's doing already. Like, this is,
Mm-hmm.
it really opened my eyes to the opportunities that are for accounting students, where we think we just have to be channeled to the big four, where look at what you've been able to do already.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
one of the biggest things that you've proven as well is the work life balance part of it. So I'm still an accounting student, but I'm already married and have a family. You know, my daughter just turned 3. And to think that I was going to go and just never exist during tax season to my daughter was a very
Mm-hmm.
scary thought. And yet you've proven
Yeah.
that that doesn't have to be the case.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be the case, and I'm looking to like completely eliminate busy season from my firm. It's been like a progression each year, and like I'm really excited for this next, for 2025, for a new thing I'm implementing with my firm around like scheduling clients when with their tax work. But yeah, you don't have to join accounting and then just work yourself to death for the first 5 years to amount to anything. Like I'm trying to create an experience for my employee, that I wish I had, uh, when I first started public accounting. So what that means is, uh, normal hours during tax season. It means like weekly one-on-one meetings for feedback and improvement, and it means like a nice summer and fall. So I'm not making them work, just to work, even if there's nothing to do for them, because I hated that during the summer. Like, the employer wanted you there for 40 hours in the office, but you're like, man, I don't have 40 hours worth of work. What am I supposed to do? Uh, so I give every Friday off from May 1st to December 31st for my employee Gary. And so I'm trying to create an experience for him that like he loves working at an accounting firm. And I can only do that by basically having my running my firm completely different than your normal accounting firm. for like a firm my size. And I think I'm hoping to help usher in this new. It's not. It's probably not new. There's firms that do this already, but this new kind of normal for accounting firms, because there's a lot of single owner firm owners that are in their 60s and 70s about to retire. So hopefully with that, with their retiring, like we can help create a new generation of firm owners that create like an amazing work life balance.
Well, and so from the entrepreneurship side, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of clients up for grabs in the next couple of years. I mean, if you don't want to go and slave away at one of the big firms, there
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be more than enough clients for the rest of your career if you're entering the accounting profession right now.
Yeah,
Um,
I get a lot of new clients saying like my tax pro just retired, or my tax pro is looks like they're about to retire or should retire, and I just want to get ahead of the curve before they retire.
yeah, it's crazy. And the I don't think students realize that, right? Like I think they come out of school and they think, you know, maybe they're not worth as much or their services aren't that important. But when you really look at it, everybody needs accountants and they need us really bad. And our pricing should reflect that. And you talk a lot about your pricing and how important pricing is for firm ownership, but I don't think students understand that if you change the pricing at the firm, it changes everything. So it
Mm-hmm.
changes salaries, it changes how much you have to work. Almost
Mm-hmm.
all of these issues in the accounting profession revolve around this lack of good pricing, right?
Yeah. Yep. It all comes down to like pricing is one of the key issues, because if you're not pricing well, you have to have a lot of clients. And if you have employees, that means you have to have more clients. And the employees have to work on a lot of clients, because if they don't, they're not worth it to the business owner. So basically the traditional model is you have a ton of clients, low paying clients, and you just work a ton of hours between January and April. And that's not like, I think that's slowly dying out. Well, I've been saying that for 10 years probably. Uh, but it's just taking its time. It's going to get there. It'll be another 10 years probably before we really see more change, but I'm hoping to make it a little faster, that transition to higher pricing. And accountants, these older accountants that, sorry, I don't want to be ageist. um these accountants that have been running their firms for a long time get really comfortable with their pricing, and the tax code has changed, and the landscape has changed since they've established that pricing 20 or 30 years ago, and inflation has happened as well. So like accounts that charge less than $300 for a tax return, they're not doing anyone good. And they may be comfortable, but like the industry can't, you can't support the industry that way. At those type of prices, you have to raise it, or completely change the way how you work as a firm, and spreading out the work more, uh, instead of doing most of it between January and April.
Yeah, and most of those CPAs have, skyscraper type piles of paper on their desk too, which it's funny
Hmm.
how that all goes together.
Right. Yeah. Not to say they're not successful, but you know, I think part of our DNA again is like we don't like conflict, and we don't want the emotional stress of raising rates for our clients that we enjoy working with. So that goes along with it. Like just don't want to don't want to raise the rates because it's going to be hard.
Yep. Yep. And it is hard, but it's worth it. And our the accounting profession should be viewed in the same lens that lawyers and other professional services offer, because they all have high prices and no one questions it because they present their value. But we have to find better ways to present and show our value to our clients, because for the longest time we haven't, right? We've just said, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
we're we're the data puncher, we're the bean counter. We don't, we don't do much, but we do." And that's where the pricing can
Absolutely.
come in. Um
Yeah.
Pivoting a little bit here. So speaking directly to the students, for the
Mm-hmm.
students who want to own a firm like you someday and want to get their work-life balance back, where do you recommend those students start? Should they go to the biggest firm they can? Should they go work for a small firm? Uh, what what suggestions are you giving to students who kind of want to go down the path that you've gone down?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that question a lot. Like, hey, Logan, do I go big four or do I work for a smaller firm if I want to start my own firm one day? And I think my progression was key. Like, kind of the firms that I worked at before I started my firm was like the perfect amount of skills, technical skills, and soft skills that I learned along the way for me to feel comfortable running my own firm. So, like, starting at a regional level firm with 150 employees, uh, where I worked on, every type of tax entity of varying sizes, but usually larger businesses and individuals that, made a lot of money. Some individuals didn't make that much amount of money. So I got a lot of great technical experience at that first job and really learned like the importance of, organization and, you know, how to prepare a tax return. I was a terrible employee, I think. like, my first job, I was terminated. They were about to merge with RSM, and I got terminated. I think I was probably just a low performer. Um, Actually, I didn't think I was a low performer because I worked hard. I just didn't have a good feedback loop system to where uh, I could really improve. So I didn't really have. It felt like I didn't have anyone pouring into me to help me with my work product. So I was a great worker, worked hard, just probably the quality is terrible, and like I was terrible at reviewing. So uh, I took that with me into the next job. It was a smaller firm and of about 7 people. Still worked on some decently big projects, but more of like your everyday business that you normally see your majority of businesses, and learned some great like skills with communication and talking to clients, and continued technical learning, uh, but not as much. I actually did some financial review work, so I got some good kind of almost audit type experience there. And then went to even smaller firm where I helped develop the tax department. it was a two CPA firm, so two owners, and they had no tax experience. And so I helped develop the tax systems and processes that I basically used to run my own firm. So I basically created the blueprint of how I wanted to run my firm at another firm. And so it was like the perfect like stair step to running a firm, to where it wasn't like starting completely from scratch and me feeling completely overwhelmed. And it was perfect. So I would recommend working at a firm out of college. Big four is definitely okay, but you're gonna get very specialized work. You're gonna be put in a very specific role where you're just gonna do that role over and over again. And I think that goes for audit and for tax. So uh, just be aware of that. And I think a more regional level firm or even smaller firm, you would get a lot more experience with a lot more different projects. So you're not just stuck on foreign corporations. You're doing S corps, partnerships, state work, all the whole gamut. You're doing personal returns, or maybe you're auditing, or you're doing specific review work uh, on different companies versus just doing audits and just auditing cash or receivables. And so, like a smaller firm's you're gonna get wider array of experience, but the smaller you go, I think the less technical skills you will develop uh, at a certain rate. I think you'll still develop technical skills, but the rate that I was able to get technical skills at a regional level firm was amazing, because they had webinars or meetings all the time about how to do this, how to do that, trainings, constant trainings. And so it was great to get just like experience everywhere. You might not get that with a smaller firm, so just keeping that in mind. I'm not like, I would say aim for regional level, but it doesn't mean you won't get great experience. Like working with a firm my size, like it just takes longer to develop those technical skills. I think the smaller firm you go.
It's it's so special that there's so many different options that can lead to so many different outcomes, because I feel like in the classroom it feels like, there's only one route. But talking to people like you
Mm.
and seeing your content and even the advice that you just gave helps students see that, it's not just tax or audit. There's all these other options, and being an entrepreneur and your own firm owner is really possible in the landscape of today's accounting world, which is just,
Hmm.
it's so exciting. And I wish professors and teachers and schools talked about that more. But um
Yeah.
but for most of them, the goal is
And
just to
even
get you
if
to as
you,
big of a firm. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
yeah. And even if you are, you do start off in a big firm, like and you specialize, you can still take that specialization and run a firm off that. Like uh, I'm thinking of Michael Myhouse, where I don't know if he was at a big four, but definitely a bigger firm, and where he just does employee benefit audits. And he took the skills that he learned from that and just does, he runs an audit firm, essentially doing that on his own. So like, even if you are kind of in a specific niche, like you can still run with that and create a firm around it, because honestly, like, niching is very lucrative if you're in the right area. you know you can definitely take the skills. Like, I'm thinking of Brandon Hall. He was at a big four, and he went directly from big four to launching his own firm. So he had enough experience uh, with just at a big four firm to launch his own CPA firm, and now he's projecting to do more than 10 million in sales in 2024. So definitely, you definitely can still have success at big four level.
Yeah, and Brandon Hall has one of the coolest firms out there. I mean, their whole compensation structure is completely different than the billable hour, which is a whole different discussion. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Brandon Hall's style of firm is what the future of accounting looks like for maybe medium to bigger sized firms.
Yeah, for sure. Like he's doing a great job. Like he's got great leadership skills and communication skills, and he's relatively young. And so like his firm is going to be a great example firm for, the next big regional level firm. I say regional, but he's completely remote. So
Right.
I guess, you know, firms with around 100 employees to like really take note, because he provides an experience for his employees. And pay structure wise, I think he pays off performance a lot. So you're going to be compensated for your extra level of effort versus working overtime and, oh, you're just salary employee. Not making more.
It never made sense to me that as accountants we would go and work in a structure where they are just going to literally work us to death because we are a fixed cost on their balance sheet.
Hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
it just blows me away that we would do that to ourselves. I
It's because we just don't know. Like, I my first internship, they didn't provide overtime pay, and I think all the big four firms did. And uh, right when I like signed on to work with this firm, my first firm out of college, they then implemented overtime pay. And so, like, I think the industry is slowly getting around to realizing, like, man, we got to pay these people more for their effort, but it's still taking a long time.
Yep, it I mean, and it's beneficial to everybody. So like the way Brandon Hall pays his employees, it incentivizes them to help the business grow and provide the best experience possible to the clients. It's I mean, it's a win-win for everybody, not just the
Mm-hmm.
employees, right? But there still should be more money going to employees and less to partners, in my opinion. But I think that's what's going to happen to change the profession.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a generational thing, too. I think, our generation, the younger generation, it's like we're not getting paid enough. And then the older generation, it's like, well, you're not worth it. Like, I, the quality of work that you do is not worth it. Uh, so there has to be like some middle ground there.
Yep. Yep. So one last thing I wanted to cover with you. You have built such a cool brand around yourself and now even around your firm that's going to pay dividends for the rest of your accounting career. What recommendations do you have for students who want to start to build a brand? Um, and maybe it doesn't necessarily mean making YouTube videos like you do, but how can students start to do that? And maybe you can get into a little bit how that's impacted your ability to network and your ability to get to know some of the people you've been able to know in the profession as well.
Yeah. I mean, Chayton, I feel like you would be a great person to answer that, because you've done that for yourself, and you're still a student. But really, you have to build your own brand. You have to be yourself, and you can't be something that you're not. I know that's so cliche, but like you have to find your voice and your style. uh, because no one else is going to have that. Like you can take from other personalities and make it your own, but like you just have to be real, and people may or may not be drawn to that. So if you're a jerk, consistently a jerk, people probably won't be drawn to that. So you do have to kind of figure out the right tone of how you communicate. But really, like I just, the way I kind of grew my brand was I posted my thoughts. A lot of my thoughts were uh, kind of strong opinions, let's say, about the accounting industry. And so I was being very real about the industry. Like, you know, it should basically, I would say a lot, it should not be this way. And so I built my brand around kind of challenging the status quo. And I still do that. So you can tell, like with my content, I'm still questioning everything of what the industry does. So like, don't be afraid to be boring, but just make sure you're yourself. And actually, I'd say don't be boring. uh, you kind of have to be controversial in a way to build attention. So uh, you have to be unique in that fact where you do draw attention to yourself. Uh, that was my strategy. So basically, be very frank about something, and then be able to stand up for what you say, because um, you're going to encounter a bunch of adverse uh, opinions as well. Memes help a lot with building brands. I love memes, and so make a lot of memes. I would say that could be boomer now. Uh, Memes were all the rage back in 2019, but that was 5 years ago. Uh, so I'm aging myself, I guess. Probably. I think memes are ageless, but that's just me talking. But Chayton, what advice would you have around building brands?
Um, I love your advice about being controversial. I think it definitely makes you, well, not controversial, but maybe having controversial opinions, especially with the way accounting is right now. Um, I think the biggest thing is just trying to build relationships. At least that's how it's been for me. And trying to add value to others instead of just take. Um, I think there's this mentality that
Mm,
students have that professionals should just be willing to give of their time and their resources to students just because, or that
mm,
just because you send a message to someone, they should respond and they should be willing to help you. But if you go out of your way to try and add value to people and help them, you're going to develop your brand a lot faster and get to know a lot more people. Like this podcast, for example, I don't have any sponsors. I don't, I mean, on LinkedIn, I don't really get any, I don't gain anything from posting to help students, but that's my goal, is to help other students and
mm,
help them on their path and help them see things that I see, right? Um, the goal of this podcast was to share networking calls that I was already having all the time with students who maybe aren't able to get those networking calls or are too shy to, or are on their way to
mm.
get to those types of networking calls. Um, so if you decide early that you're going to help other people and add value to them, I think that can build your brand immensely. Um, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you've done the same thing with your YouTube channel. The You didn't gain anything at first from sharing and being so transparent about your salary and everything you're doing at your business. That's a hard thing to share. And even your career journey where you got fired from that first firm you worked at, those are hard things to share. But
Mm-hmm.
the value you add to students, and I could feel that and see that right through the screen the first time I watched your videos, the value you're adding to your listeners, I think that develops your brand very quickly.
Yeah, and honestly, that's what I should have said as well. Like providing value in whatever content that you make is probably the number one key to growing your brand. Because if you're not offering anybody anything, there's no reason for them to partake, consume your content. You know, I've given away a lot of stuff for free. Uh, like I talk about pricing a lot and raising your rates, and just telling people to raise your rates doesn't help too much. People are like, okay, but how do you do that? And so I would post on LinkedIn and Twitter. This is a way to increase your audience as well. By say, if you follow me on YouTube and Twitter, and then let me know that you did that, I will give you my template that I send my clients price increase emails essentially. And so I give them, uh, it's not free. I have to have your attention, in a way, but that's hopefully some value to them where they can take that template and make it their own and use it to help raise rates on their end. So I try to help give tools when I can on, uh, on helping others. So definitely the value. Yeah. If you're, and it's hard to do that because you kind of like, well, I it's mine and I created it, and or I know this and I want to just keep it inside, because I'll get paid for it in another way. But like I think there's an infinite amount of way that you can create value and still make money. So yeah, definitely a mindset shift.
Well, and for me, it goes back to my beliefs as a person, too. I'm a big believer that giving freely without the idea of an initial return or getting something back right away, that's just a part of my core belief. And I think at the end of the day, people who do that end up better than people who just keep everything for themselves and try and, um, you know, I don't know, get payment directly for anything that they give. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think giving freely to other professionals, especially younger professionals, I think it'll pay off in the years to come. And that's a big reason why I like doing this, right? Not just for the payout hopefully years down the road or the relationships that I'm going to build, but that I get to help and see other students grow and develop or learn things from what I've been able to share with them. And I'm sure it's the same way for you, right? And even in what you're able to do for Gary right now, that you're kind of his mentor and you're helping him develop and grow as an accountant, that's, I'm sure, very rewarding.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I never thought having an employee would be so fulfilling. I always kind of saw it as like, oh, like it's this extra cost that I'm not sure if it's going to be worth it. But helping develop Gary has been extremely rewarding on my end. Like I I have a great time doing that. And it's fun having another person as well, working with someone, on like a daily basis. So that helps out a ton. But building, I wouldn't have Gary if I didn't have my brand. Because if I hadn't developed my own Twitter presence, YouTube presence, he wouldn't he wouldn't have ever known that I existed, and he would have never applied to my job position a year ago. It was pretty much a year ago when I hired him, and so like he's probably like one of the best people that I could have ever hired for my company uh, to hire, because he's just an amazing person. He has great character. He works hard. You know, technically he only had like a year of experience, and I put on my job requirements like you need to have at least 2 or 3 years of experience. And so he applied anyways, and I've not regretted hiring Gary at all. So I wouldn't have speaking engagements without having my brand and creating content. You know, I do get client inquiries, so I have the potential to get new clients, but I'm very limited on who I work with, so it's not always a good fit because usually they're out of state. And but yeah, I've made a tremendous amount of contacts online with other professionals, networking wise. That's probably invaluable. And so like the cost to building your own brand is very low. It just takes time and effort, and but it doesn't cost anything from a money standpoint for the most part. You know, you're paying for software fees and equipment fees for your podcast and video, but it's very low. Posting on Twitter is free, but it just takes time.
Yep. But it's well worth the effort, and it's something that young professionals need to be dedicating time to be successful. Even if your brand just becomes that you have a network of people that'll help you and help develop you, that'll all be worth it. It really will. Um,
Hmm.
so Logan, thank you so much for your time. I know your time is incredibly valuable, and I'm so grateful you took an hour out of your day to speak with me and my listeners. I'm going to upload everywhere people can find you here in the show notes, your Twitter, your LinkedIn, your YouTube channel, all of that. My last question I wanted to ask you is, how the heck did you start dancing on your live streams?
Oh god. Uh, uh, I guess I've posted me dancing randomly in other videos, and I would just joke about it on live stream, like, "Oh, if you start paying me, I'll start dancing." Or if y'all send in some donations, I'll start dancing. And then all of a sudden, like, I got like $15 thrown at me, and I was like, "All right, time to dance." So I give them the people what they want, even though it's not really what they want. I know they don't want to see it. So yeah, it's fun.
Oh, those
But yeah,
those
I
live streams
appreciate
are
you
awesome.
having me on here.
Of
I love
course.
to do
Thank
live
you so much,
streams,
Logan.
deadlines, and for those that are listening, uh, that are in college or in a student or maybe thinking about majoring in college, like please feel free to reach out to me, or suggest to me any type of video topics that you want to see, because I'd love to. I ask people all the time what type of videos you want to see, and like I had a video about my CPA exam experience and was it worth it. That was inspired by someone direct messaging me like, "Hey, Logan, can you talk about how you pass the CPA exam?" So I was like, "Okay, I'll do that when busy season's over." And it's one of my highest performing videos, so appreciate like appreciate that. So feel free to give me suggestions. And I'm building a community for new accounting firm owners, and I have an interest form that I throw out there and a lot of links on LinkedIn or Twitter. So if you're interested, it doesn't hurt to just signing up for it, the interest forum, and being in contact with me that way sometime in the future. But yeah, thank you, Chayton.
Well, if you want, I can drop that the interest form in the link below as well too. So excited for that community.
Cool. Yeah, and I'm almost considering some sort of like sub student level of membership in a way, just because I know there's a lot of students that follow me, and I'm trying to think of a way to involve y'all too, because I know cost is a thing. Like, and y'all aren't maybe not even close to owning your own firm. So I'm trying to think of a way to help y'all out as well. But it'd just be good to have your email and stalk you. So
Very cool. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time, and I'm sure my listeners will enjoy this episode. So super pumped
thanks.
about it. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. It's a pleasure.